Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to spend a few words about going over what people are still talking about this week, even though it's earlier in the week. But we'll run through that really quickly. Talk about a new toy I got here, and an update on some more of my other toys not here yet. So first, people still talking about the KZ ZSX. Finally, some other people on HeadFi, the KZ Impressions thread, chiming in saying, yeah, it's the best KZ ever. It's pretty much the top of, if you're a KZ guy, it's pretty much the one to get. I don't see too many people recommending anything else. My opinion, it's better than a lot of other stuff out there. And so to be honest, I've been neglecting my TFZ number 3s because they actually sound really similar. People said this thing is kind of the bass monster. As I said last time, put a big copper cable on this guy, and it too is a bass monster. Some other reviews outside of HeadFi say, well, it's not a bass monster. Well, go change your cable and change your tips. It's way up there. Probably too much bass for people who are not really into that. You got to be really into it. It's pretty strong with that cable on there, so if you're not that type of guy, probably not the ones for you. The other odd thing about the KZ ZSX, which I noticed, was the shape of it is super weird. Maybe it's kind of the new KZ shape, but I think it's a little thicker than normal, or maybe the top stick has a little. But if you look at yourself in the mirror, you kind of look like you have Frankenstein bolts coming out of your ear. So fit-wise, they don't bother me at all. Even this little bump, which seemed to bother some people, didn't bother me at all. But definitely, if you look yourself in the mirror, you'll see a couple bolts coming out of your ear, which is maybe not the coolest thing if you're on an airplane or somewhere public, but at home, I don't really care. So, still love these guys. Taking up too much of my time, not getting to the number 3s, but whatever. So what are people still talking about? So remember the guide rays, $50, the best thing ever, beats everything, including the KZ ZSXs and the V90s, and I don't remember what the other one was. I don't think people are still talking about it. I think everyone ordered, and it's probably still in the mail. I haven't seen really anyone talking about it since Bad Guy talked about it. Bad Guy, good reviews. He had some wonderful things to say about it, but I don't see too much chatter about it after that. So maybe not so on the hype list. What is on the new hype list? The Showsies. Beryllium coded dynamic driver. The newest, coolest thing out there. People are definitely talking about it because I think it's just getting to the hands of some people. I don't even know if it's actually for sale right now. I just saw that some people were still talking about it and how awesome it is. No idea, but definitely still on the talking about it list, so that's a good thing. Blonde BL-03s. Mine came. I bought mine from the Wheezy store, and they actually shipped them out super quicker than almost anything else I've got. So still in the package. Still wrapped. Haven't touched them yet because of these guys again. And this guy. We'll talk about that guy in a minute. But yeah, I bought into the hype on that guy. People are still talking about it. And people still say it's amazing. It's got a crappy cable. You know, all the money went into the innards of this. And the cable is super crap. So we'll be hopefully testing those out soon. And swapping the cable. But people definitely still talking about it, still liking it, so give that one a thumbs up. The V90, mine is still in the mail. It hasn't arrived in the United States yet, so I don't know, but people are still talking about it. People are asking me about it. I think people, if it kind of lives up to the hype of, well, it sounds really similar to the KZ ZSX, but it's in a smaller shell, kind of more consumer-friendly, ear-friendly, that's a kind of a super bonus for people. Don't know, but people are definitely still talking about it, and I have a bunch of people asking me about it, and that's the answer so far is mine is in the mail. Ear Studio ES100. If you watched my video when it was on sale, it's not on sale anymore, but too many people recommending this thing to sort of not get it. It's someone else just commented it about 5 minutes ago on it's going on my 1111 list. Maybe it's, I didn't even see if it's on AliExpress or not, but it's on Amazon. And someone actually said they bought it when it was $79, which it was actually back in June. So hopefully sometime between, you can see right there, so sometime between 11/11 and Black Friday, we'll see that $79 price, and maybe I'll pull the trigger on it. But haven't quite figured out how it fits into my workflow yet. But if you go back and look at the comments, maybe we'll have more of a discussion on how people are using it and why it sounds so much better than anything else out there. So KZ ZSX, people still talking about it. I'm still talking about it. Love it. Definitely a thumbs up there. So the new hot thing this week, the Venture Electronics Bonus IE. This is about as much info as anyone has on it. Bad Guy Good Reviews gave it a super thumbs up because it's $20. Man, I don't know. It looks like a $20 set to me, but that is what has joined the hype train this week. People are talking about it. I don't think anyone really other than him has it in their hands yet, and I think he actually sold out of a bunch of them in other places, so we'll have to keep our eye on this guy and see if other people get it, whether they like it, keep talking about it or not. But that was the new entrant on the what's being talked about this week. Printed this out wrong, but so what showed up at my house this week is the KZ T1. This is KZ's first true wireless earbud. A couple people reviewed it, kind of said it was so-so. Yeah, I kind of agree with it. First, the case is super nice. It's kind of actually heavy for an earbud case because it's all metal, but super nice. First thing you notice, that one took off, but the earbuds that ship with this guy, absolute trash. They're silicone, the super thin silicone, just not going to hold this thing in your ear all that well, or get any isolation, or get into your canal. So if you're reviewing them with the silicone tips, that is not going to be a good experience. It wasn't a good experience when I pulled them out of the box. So these are the standard, we can probably see that, KZ star tips that I had to mutilate a bit to fit this stem. So it actually has a really, the nozzle is actually quite small. Let me see if I could show these two side by side. So your ZSX nozzle compared to the T1, it's just kind of all around smaller. So it'll, diameter wise, it's the same. So I actually took star tip, just pull it off. You have to take the star tip and then flip it and then basically cut down the stem in there so it fits this guy properly and it still charges. So once you do that, then you get something nice that'll actually sit in your ear and hold it in, and you could actually get a better idea what the sound is going to be like out of these things compared to the silicone tips, which it kind of reminded me of how people described the Apple AirPods originally, where the sound is super thin because it's sitting outside of your ear and you don't get this thing isolated and just not close enough to your ear to really sound all that well. So that kind of reminded me of those guys with the silicone. So with the star tip, it actually fits almost like any other KZ earphone. It kind of looks odd because I didn't cut down the rest of it, but so in general, the sound on these guys, it sounds, I don't know, maybe a little less than the ZSN. So the real issue is that they tuned it, and this is kind of my opinion of this thing is tuned for pure music. And if you're listening to just the music, it sounds super good. until you get to the bass. The bass sounds really artificial. You'll get a nice thump, so they got the thump right at the mid bass, but sub bass wise, it doesn't. It will rumble if you push it, but in general, it definitely rolls off super quick, almost noticeably quick. Like you're like, well, what happened to the rest of that on certain songs? So the low end, definitely not good, but the musicality is actually really good. So as long as you don't mind just the thump of the bass, really good. And then when you get into the mids, it actually sounds really, really good. And I think that's sort of where they definitely tune this thing to sound good. But vocals, not my favorite. You kind of get into that sounds like Prince, but not actually like Prince. And to be fair, so When Doves Cry sounds pretty good. Purple Rain, not so good. His voice definitely gets kind of shifted higher. And I think just in general on these guys, the higher you go, not the more artificial, but kind of the thin, it gets really thin. So does it go piercing? No. It just kind of goes thin and rolls off, which for music, it's passable. But I don't know. They're not, the details are totally lost on these guys, and I think that's just a Bluetooth thing. So if you're listening to like Dido's Hurricanes and you're expecting to hear the breath and airiness of her voice, not going to happen on these guys. But the music, great. Sounds great. So kind of interesting mix. If you're out mowing the lawn and you're just kind of not worried about the details of what you're hearing and you just want to hear, the great music, yeah, definitely cool for that. And I think that mid section actually probably sounds better than my Samsung earbuds. Hard to say. I'm kind of still getting used to these things, but definitely because this has one dynamic driver and one BA, it should do some things better than the Samsung ones, and they probably do. I think for music-wise, they probably do. Other thing about these guys is they don't do aptX, and they have a noticeable noise floor to them, kind of like if you're used to you turn on your Bluetooth headset and suddenly you're on a call because you hear this kind of faint constant noise. That's kind of what these guys do. They definitely have that Bluetooth noise to them, so that wasn't so cool either, but kind of expected on these guys. And to be fair, these were $40, I think, and that was probably on the higher side. I bought them for some other reason, but so cool. I kind of like them. I don't know if they'll replace my Samsungs, but I was kind of into it because I'm a kind of KZ fan guy, and I'm like, well, these will probably be a collector's item because these were the public beta ones, and I think they're pretty much all discontinued and resellers have been selling out or whatever they have. I'm not sure they're still making these anymore or not, but yeah, it's cool. I'll kind of say, just as every other review says, yeah, they're okay. I wouldn't go out of your way to buy them, and I definitely would not buy them because they're super hard to find now as people sold out of them. But so what is the new hot thing from KZ on wireless is they have something called the KZ E10. QC3020 is actually the Qualcomm chip that gives you aptX, and this thing has 10 units, 1 dynamic driver and 4 BA per ear, whereas this guy was 1 and 1. This is now 4 and 1, so 5, and then everything else is kind of the same. Bluetooth 5.0, $69, which is almost going to be double what that one was, but this thing has a different form factor. So now you get the earbud, and then it's got this wacky dongle tail thing, which may be the battery. I'm not too sure what's sitting in there, but that will certainly feel better in your ear. Less likely it's going to fall out if that thing is wrapped around your ear. So 1, 2, 3, 4 BAs. Big 10 millimeter dynamic driver is actually really big for wireless. Usually there's 6. I think this guy
is 6 as well. So there's not hardly any information on this guy. It's actually down here. I cut it off, but I think it's pre-ordering up through October 8th, I think is what it said. So this is another one of those maybe 11/11 things, but I'm not sure I would really drop $70 on this thing without more than a few reviews saying it's better than Sabati 12 or any of the other ones that are popular right now. I'm kind of into wireless earphones, but not enough to really spend a whole lot of money on them because there's a new one every other week. When I started looking at the Sabati 12, I was like, yeah, that was the king of the hill, the E12, and then, as I'm watching it, the Ultra comes out. It's like, oh, that's a new king of the hill, and they're literally a couple months apart from the original, so something I'm keeping my eye on. I definitely would not drop $70 on them to test those out, but we'll see what it looks like on 11/11. So that's the wrap up for today anyway. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.